All right. Welcome, everybody, to the conference championship weekend of the BSB. I'm Sean Kaus, and with me, as always, we have my brother, Tony James. And we are your betting strategy brothers. Tony, how you doing today?
Man, I'm feeling good today, Callis. I just got done watching the Coyotes beat the Golden Knights, so I'm feeling really good. How are you doing?
That was a big win for him, too. You know what? I'm doing fucking fantastic because it is conference championship, Final Four, and we're still talking about the Bills. There's nothing better in my book.
I can see that by get up tonight, man. You're looking sharp and great and holy.
Got the glass to go with it too.
I love it. But you know what, Callis? It's really cool that if conference championship weekend is always a really good weekend, but it's even more fun when either your team is in it or even if you have a buddy whose team is in it, because then you have more of a rooting interest in the games. Granted, when you bet on the games, you definitely have a rooting interest, but it's cool to see, for me anyway, it's cool to see my friends' teams do well. And so I'm really excited about your Buffalo Bills. I'm really excited about my friend Brado, his Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm really excited for them as well. And if you're a Green Bay fan or a Kansas City fan and you're my friend, sorry I forgot about you, but that's cool to see.
Well, and it also goes the other way too, and I think most would agree that it can go the other way where it's like, I really don't want to see Tom Brady in the Super Bowl again. So you might have a rooting interest against that. So
yeah, and this is public knowledge. I hate watch the Chargers like it's nobody's business. So, I totally understand that. So I totally get the hate watching.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, as much as I don't want to see Tom Brady and hate Tom Brady, I really want to see Buffalo, Tampa, and Buffalo finally get the best of Tom Brady. Like that's really what I want. That would be like ultimate in my book. So part of me is like, oh, I hope Tom Brady wins, but if he doesn't, I'm really okay with that.
Yeah, and it would almost be, one of those poetic justice things. Like you finally get over the hump, and there's your nemesis there. Mm-hmm. Not only your nemesis, but if they make it, your nemesis on their home field, and you have to get. So you're like, oh my gosh, all these things are stacked against me. So I agree, that would be a fascinating thing to see. And we're going to talk about it today, Kaus, but I actually wouldn't be surprised to see that.
No, I wouldn't either. And Buffalo embraces that underdog spirit, so I'm good with that. So let's real quick just talk about last week.
Do we have to?
You know what? One of my favorite parts of last week was I'm right, you're wrong. I'm stupid, you're smart. You're attractive, I'm ugly. So for those of you who don't know, I mean, last week you should know that Tony went Baltimore against my Bills, and I told him he was wrong. And when that happened, I got that text from him, and I was absolutely dying. And I was already on cloud nine because Buffalo won, but it was just hilarious. And so anyway, I won Buffalo on the money line last week. Got 34 back from that. I got the 14 for the win and 20 for my bet back. I got $10 back on the round robin. The Buffalo KC part. The Saints screwed a lot of people. They just look terrible, and man, you hate to see Drew Brees go out looking bad, but he's done. I don't think any of the games went over last week, and that really screwed a lot of my bets. So, how'd you end up last week?
You just summed it up right there. All the games went under, and I went over on every single one of them, and that was the end of that. I did get 9 back from my Baker Mayfield prop of him throwing less than 260 yards, but it was a tough week. I had the Rams, they lost by 1.5. I had an over, and it lost by 1.5. And then like you said, I had Baltimore because I rode the Baltimore train, and quote the Ravens, nevermore. I mean, they're done. So, but the great thing, Kaus, is that we have 2 fantastic games this week. We have opportunities to make more money, and it really is the four best teams, the teams that are playing the best, the teams with the best quarterbacks, the teams with the best offenses and defenses. And that's what we want to see, right? We want to see the best of the best and have them battle it out for that trip to Tampa in February.
I agree, and you love to see it this way. So before we get into our bets, let's talk about what we're drinking.
Yes.
Right now, I am in that glass you just saw. I got some Guinness going in there.
Good.
But on Sunday, I'm going to be drinking some Labatt Blue Light along with some Jim Beam and ginger ale. I'm going to double up. That's my game day drink. Always is the Jim Beam and ginger with the Labatt Blue Lights to chase it. But last week I had that Guinness, and man, did it freaking taste good. So I went and got myself some more. So I've been drinking it all week. What do you got over there?
Well, let me just make a comment about your LBLs. The Labatt Blue Light, I've been to Buffalo once on a weekend that I ran the Toronto half marathon. And the night before the race, I went to the Buffalo to the Anchor Bar and filled up on Labatt Blue Lights. And let me just say that run on Sunday was not the best one. But the Labatt Blues at the Anchor Bar are fantastic. I stocked up on the way. I had to go onto campus today. Just wasn't feeling it. Like today, there was hockey on, there's basketball. I knew we were going to be talking tonight. And I'm like, you know what? I want to have a couple pints tonight. So I stocked up at my favorite brewery, Evans Brewery in Corona, California. I got a little Foggy Pines Hazy Pale Ale. It's a little light on the ABV. It's 5.4%, but man, this thing is freaking smooth. So I've been putting these down, watching the game tonight, and just having and coloring with my kid and having a good time.
That's fantastic. It looks good. Everything you've sent me that I've tried from them is fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and take your word on that one. All right. Today we're going to do it a little different. We're going to start with our bets. We're just going to give you the bets. And then we're going to talk about it. When we do that, we're not doing every bet. So normally every week we give you a straight pick and a parlay and a round robin and an if bet and a prop and da. This week, only being these games, we said, okay, we're just going to do what we're going to do in real life. And so that's where we went on that. So it's going to be a little different there. And then we're just going to say, hey, these are our bets. And then we're going to talk about the whys, and we're going to talk about what it's going to take for each team to win. Okay,
sure.
So we're doing a little different, but try to change it to different. And if you guys don't like it, hit me up and tell me you suck. I'm good with that.
But we're doing that too, also because there's only 2 games this weekend, right? So if there was a full 16 game schedule, obviously we're going to not go over every single game. But since there's only 2, we feel it's important to talk about all the different factors that go into those games, so you can make a decision on whether or not you want to take one side or the other.
Agreed. So on our straight bets, we actually both did the same straight bet. And I love it. We're both taking Buffalo, and we're both taking them on the money line. Okay, they're plus 153. I'm putting 10 on to win 15. Tony's putting 20 to win 30. I'm actually in real life probably going to put more money on them. It's just we always try to do 100 a week in bets, and so when I did my stuff out, it only left me with 10 on the straight. But we both think Buffalo wins, and we'll get into that later. My parlay is actually a prop parlay, and I'm doing it that Travis Kelce is going to have a touchdown, at least a touchdown. And Stephon Diggs is going to have at least a touchdown. I'm parlaying those two together. It's going to be plus 240, 10 to win 24. And once again, we'll talk about that later, but that is my bet. Tony, why don't you say what your parlay is?
Well, I just have a quick question on your bet, Kaus. They only have to be touchdowns. They don't have to be receiving touchdowns, right? They just have to be a touchdown. Okay. Correct. So Stephon Diggs takes the end around for to the house. That still counts.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. My parlay, I went with the Tom Brady parlay. I took Tampa Bay on the money line at plus 158, and I took Tampa Bay Green Bay for that game to go under 52 points, and that's $20 to win 79.
Gotcha. So now I'm going to my teaser. I'm taking Tampa Bay plus 9. I'm taking the Battle of the Bays. I'm taking the over 46. I'm teasing that down. I'm taking over 46. And I already think Buffalo's going to win, so why not throw them in there, try to win me some more money? I'm getting Buffalo plus 9. So 40 is going to win me 64. You got 2 different teasers. What do you got?
I do. I went a teaser for each game this week. So I took for my first teaser, I took Tampa +9, and I took the over. Or I beg your pardon. I took the under 58 because I think that's coming under the total this week. So I teased it up, got me a couple more points, and I'm going under 58. That's 20 to win 18. And then in the nightcap, I took Buffalo +9, and I took Buffalo and Kansas City under 60. So I teased that up from 54 to 60, and because I have a feeling that is going to go under, and that 20 will also win me 18.
All right, and then we're going to end with our prop bets here. I got 3 different ones. I'm taking the Tampa Bay is going to score more than 2.5 total touchdowns. My $10 is going to win me 6 on that. I'm taking that Buffalo is going to win more than score more than 2.5 touchdowns. So my $10 actually only wins me 5 on that. And then I'm taking, this is actually, the book itself made it a parlay, but it's really only one bet. But what it means by the book making it is the book is telling me, hey, if you're putting on money on this, this has to happen. So what has to happen is that Devin Singletary has to score at least 1 touchdown and Buffalo has to win. And then for that one, I'm putting 20 down, and it's going to be 20 to get 67, and we'll talk about that later. Tony, what do you got as a prop bet?
I have one single prop bet this week, House, and it's that Tampa Bay wins this football game by any amount of points between 1 and 13. I took that at +215, so my $20 will win me $43. So they just have to win the game, but it has to be by less than two touchdowns.
Gotcha. So those are our bets. We wanted to give those to you first, so you know what we're talking about as we're talking about the games and stuff like that. So just so you had, hey, okay, this is what you're doing. Tell me why, instead of tell me why, and this is what you're doing. So try it out, see how it goes with 2 games. That's what it is. So let's talk about the first game. Let's talk about Tampa Green Bay. So Tony, what is it going to take for Tampa to win this game?
I think it's a pretty simple formula, House. I think Tampa has to be successful running the ball against Green Bay. Tampa last week against the Saints ran the ball well. I think Brady even had a rushing touchdown, which was very interesting. They were very successful with their game plan. They managed the game very well. Brady made throws when he had to make throws. He was successful at it, and they have to do the same thing here. I think Breeze, if we compare Breeze and Rodgers, I think Rodgers is a step above Breeze right now, mostly because of one, the system he plays in, and 2, his age. He's got 3 or 4 years on Tom Brady on Drew Brees on the good side. Breeze just isn't that mobile. I'm not saying Rodgers is a dual threat quarterback by any stretch of imagination, but he is a little bit more mobile. Mm-hmm. But Tampa Bay has to do a couple of things. They need to establish the run and run the ball successfully. They need to get some pressure on Rodgers and get him out of his comfort zone. If they can do that, they're going to win this football game.
Yeah, I agree. When you go looking to win the football game, you go at attacking the weakness. In Green Bay's defense isn't terrible, and they don't have a lot of weakness, but it is against the rush. I agree. But for me, how Green Bay is going to win this game, they are going to have to pressure the shit out of Brady. They're just going to have to. And we've said it every time we talk about Brady, we say this. But when you look at their wins this year, Tampa's wins were all their wins. Tom Brady was sacked 1.1 time. 1.1 sacks per game in all their wins. In their losses, 2.2. And then when you keep looking down that and when you keep looking down that rabbit hole of every time they lost, Tom Brady's rushing the rushes against him is way up. The touches against him, how many times they've actually hit him, is way up in their losses. So every time he is brought out of it, I mean, you talk about taking Rodgers out of his comfort zone. Brady's even worse. Okay, you get him out of his comfort zone, he can't handle it, and that's what it's going to take for Green Bay to win it. Now, Green Bay is going to try to establish the run. They were really Rodgers. Yes, But Green Bay's Jones, remember there's a Tampa Bay Jones and Green Bay's Jones. Green Bay's Jones actually had over 1,000 yards rushing this year. So it's not like they can't rush the ball, but Tampa's going to be really good at stopping it. Now here's what's going to happen is Green Bay is going to have to move the ball. They're going to have to move it with Rodgers passing because that's where Tampa's weakness is passing. They're going to have to move the ball passing. And then when they get the red zone, they're going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to try to run the ball because even though Tampa stops the rush, Tampa stops the rush, they still allow a lot of points. So it's going to be they're going to have to pass it. They allow the pass a lot, and then they're going to have to rush it in. So I think those are the keys to the game. Winning. Now, when we talk about our bets here, you have Tampa Bay on the money line. And just said so. You said what it's going to take for them to win. Obviously you think that's what's going to happen?
I do. I really liked last week what Tampa Bay did to confuse Drew Brees. And it's not like, Drew Brees didn't have the greatest season. He was injured part of the year. He never seemed like when he got back under center, it just seemed like something was missing. But that being said, they really did a great job game planning for Drew Brees. Like Drew Brees just looked uncomfortable the entire game. And the one thing that stood out to me, I think I told you this earlier, or earlier in the week anyway, the interception by White, like Brees didn't even see him. White just came out of nowhere and there he goes with the ball. And it was great for Tampa Bay because they got the ball deep in New Orleans territory. They were able to get points out of it. And now you're doing a couple of things. You're rattling Brees because you're like, what the hell just happened? And you're getting points, which puts Brees in a deeper hole. And now New Orleans has to throw the ball. And once you make a team one-dimensional, you pretty much have them where you want them. Now, the challenge, though, when I say that, the challenge is Green Bay's passing attack is really bloody good. And so Tampa Bay's defense with Levante David, they're going to have to come up really big against Green Bay and their receivers. Their receivers, probably the best receiving core in the NFL right now. So they're going to have a big challenge this week.
I agree. And you took the under, and I agree with you. And this may go against our bets here, but I teased down and took the over, and you stayed at the parlay. You stayed at the 52 at the original amount and went under. And I actually think the score is going to be about 50 total. I think it's going to be a 30-20 game-ish because when you look at what Tampa Bay is doing, they're scoring 30, 40, 30, 40, 30, 40, 20, 20, 30, 40. They're scoring a lot of points right now. Whereas, yes, Green Bay is as well, but they're also sometimes they're not. They're just finding ways to win otherwise. And I think both of these teams are going to rush the ball to win the game. Well, I think because of that, it's going to keep it low scoring.
I think I was just going to say that. I think that Tampa Bay is going to come out with their number one focus to run the ball. And if Tampa Bay can run the ball and be successful, you do two things that are in your favor. One, you keep Rodgers off the field. Two, you beat down the defense. And by the time the fourth period rolls around, if you beat that defense down and beat them down and they're on the field, you'll pretty much be able to do what you want with them in the fourth period. So that's why I think it's going to go under. I think, and we've talked about this before, Kaus, we've talked about teams that like to shorten the game. And I think that's Tampa Bay's key to winning this game is by shortening the game, keeping Rodgers off the field. You do those two things, they're going to be playing the Super Bowl on their home field.
I agree, and like I said, I think it's a 30-20 game-ish. We're going to slow the game down, but there's still going to be points scored. It's still Brady, It's still Rodgers. There's still going to be points scored. So I teased mine down to take the over at 46. You stayed at 52 to take it under. And like I said, I think it comes right in between there just because there's going to be points scored, but it is going to be a slower game. Now, I didn't take Tampa on the money line. Mm-hmm. This game scares me. We talked about how I'm scared either way, but I did tease Tampa and take them +9. And that kind of goes with your bet of, well, Tampa wins by 1 to 13. Like, even if you're wrong, It's going to be a close game either way. I think it's within a 10-point game. So you taking Tampa Bay to win, you're convinced Tampa Bay is going to win. By 1-13, that's a great bet. Now, I'm not so convinced that Tampa wins, but I am convinced enough that 9 points is too much. Okay, I don't think if Green Bay wins, I don't think they win by more than 9 points. So that's why I teased it up and took Tampa plus 9.
I completely agree with you, Callus, and that's why on the teaser I did take Tampa Bay, because if somehow Green Bay does win this game, I think it's by a late field goal. I think this game goes 27-24 in either direction. And you know what's funny, Callus, is we've talked about what Tampa Bay has to do to win the game and establish a run. We haven't really talked about Tom Brady. Like, you're talking about the guy with 6 Super Bowl titles, right? And he's trying to lead a second team into the playoffs, not only into the Super Bowl, but from the wild card position, which he'd never done before. So this would be just such a huge, huge win for Brady if he can do this.
It would be the first team that wasn't a division champion to win the championship. So it'll be a first, and who else to do it but Tom Brady? And look, I hate Tom Brady. Okay, I do. Oh. I respect the hell out of the man, though. He's not the greatest of all time. We've talked about this. I think Peyton's the greatest of all time. But I said this. We talked about this already. The reason I think Peyton is the best of all time is because he's a game manager. He knew what the other team was thinking before they even thought it. And Tom Brady in New England under Belichick was more of a, here's the system, and this is what's going to work. And if that's not there, that's going to be there. And if that's not there, and I'm not saying he didn't read and he didn't do that stuff pre-snap, but he didn't really have to think as much. Whereas you've heard Bruce Arians say, dude, I'm letting Tom Brady coach. Like, I'm just letting him go. They weren't letting him go in New England. I'm just letting him coach, letting him do his thing. Like, now Brady is coming into his own, where now I think he's actually raising up to a better quarterback than he ever was when he won those Super Bowls, because you're starting to see that Peyton-esque where he can start, hey, that's happening. That's happening. That's happening. That's happening. You do this and you do that. Like, and once again, I'm not saying he didn't do that before. I just think it's more prevalent that he is becoming that general on the field with Tampa than he ever did in New England.
Well, and I don't think he has a choice, because I don't think his team was is nearly as good. Mike Evans is good and Jones is good, but his team's like, if you go back to the 18-0 season when he had Moss and Branch and Gronkowski, I think he had Gronkowski on that team too. They had weapons. Kevin Falk, they had weapons. Yeah. This doesn't have, like, I would put it to you this way, man. Can you name like 5 players on Tampa Bay on their offense other than Brady and Mike Evans? Like, probably not.
Yeah.
And another thing is, this game is going to come down to Brady, Brait, and Miller. If those 3 guys can get in sync and they can be successful against the Packers, and Miller, especially Miller, because Miller reminds me of like Tampa Bay's Edelman, right? Or Amendola. If he can hit Miller on a few passes to keep the chains moving, this is going to be a great, great game for Tampa Bay.
I agree. And Brady's making Byron Leftwich look like a head coach. And I think that is not a good thing. I don't think Byron Leftwich is, and I think that's why you don't see his name when they're talking about, oh, so-and-so's in the mix for head coaches. You haven't heard him. You've heard his name thrown out there, but you haven't heard him like he's a finalist, and because I think they're realizing that it's really Brady that's doing all this and not Leftwich. But here's the thing. Last time these 2 teams played, they made Rodgers throw 2 interceptions.
Yes.
2 interceptions. He threw 5 all year, and he threw 2 in one game against these guys. I don't think that happens again. Knowing Rodgers, knowing how he is, I don't think he's going to let that happen to him again. So I think he comes out with a vengeance. I think he comes out saying, you guys ran with me last time. I figured you out. I watched enough film. I know what I'm doing wrong. I know what I need to do it. You guys smoked us. I'm not going to let that happen again. So I think Rodgers starts to use his brains more than his brawn as far as throwing the ball around, and figures out a way to beat them with his brains. Just like we're saying Tom Brady's going to do, I think Rodgers does the same thing on the other side and tries to do it. Now look at betting-wise, Tom Brady, in conference championships, he's 9-4. 9-4. 6-7 against the spread, though.
Ooh.
6-7 against the spread. So against the spread, sorry, that's my phone. I apologize. 6-4 against the spread. So he's not looking so good against the spread. So if they win this, that's why I said before, I think it's going to be a really close game. It might be under. It might be less than a point or less than 3 points they win it by, less than a field goal.
Do you remember the days when these two teams were in the same division and they just stunk the freaking joint up? Like they were god awful. Like if you wanted to play in the NFL, the two places you didn't want to play were Tampa Bay and Green Bay, because you were like in the outpost, like Antarctica of the NFL. And so I think it's funny how these two teams are playing for a title or a chance to go to Super Bowl. I think it's great. And I think it's a great early game for us on Sunday. And yeah, I'm really excited. And I think Tampa Bay's going to pull it off, man. I really do.
Well, no matter who does, see, that's a good thing about the prop bets. I think no matter what happens, Tampa Bay scores 2.5. Oh, they score 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't not see Tampa Bay getting 21 points in this. So, or okay, I should say technically 18, but I don't have
some idiot kickers over there, by the way.
Correct.
So yeah, 18.
We'll say 18, but I don't see that not happening. That's why my prop bet, I really like them getting over 2.5 touchdowns. When I looked at it, I thought they'd be 3.5, which actually Green Bay was over 3.5. I go, I don't know if I can do 3.5, but 2.5 I can do all day long. So I like
for
that.
sure.
So, all right, let's switch over to my game. Oh, I'm so
your game.
So
Your
freaking
game.
excited about this. All right, so let me tell you what Buffalo needs to do. Buffalo, first of all, they need to stay who they are. They need to stay who they are. There's so many. I've watched so many things and listened. I mean, you do research. I do research. We watch things. We watch games. We listen to people talk. All these freaking people saying Buffalo needs to establish a run. Last week, they only ran the ball one time in the first half. And I agree. They only ran the ball one time in the first half. But guess what? But guess what? They still freaking won the game. They still won the game. Don't change who you are just because you're in a different game, you're in a bigger game or whatever. You got here for a reason. Now, Buffalo, you've seen Josh Allen. These games have been like his career. Like, year one is the Indianapolis Colts, and we're kind of figuring it out, but we're going to make some mistakes and kind of screw up here and there, but we're going to get it. We're going to win in the end. Good. Year two, Baltimore Ravens. All right, we figured it out. We're not going to make mistakes, but we're not going to dominate, which is what happened in Allen's second year. Third year, third game in the playoffs, and this is not Allen's third game ever in the playoffs, but third game in a row in the playoffs. Now he's going to turn it on. You're going to see him do it. Don't go away from it. However, if you notice when Buffalo came out in the second half, they ran Singletary. That first drive, they ran Singletary, and they ended up scoring. Now, that pass was to Diggs. It was like a 3-yard pass to Diggs, a wide receiver screen to Diggs, and he got in. But they ran the freaking ball with Singletary in there. That's why I like my prop bet of Singletary getting a touchdown, and I think Buffalo wins this. Okay, now, on the defensive side of the ball, they have to do what they did to Lamar. They have to rush him. They have to keep him uncomfortable. They have to keep him in that pocket. Okay, that's what they did to Lamar. That's why Lamar didn't have success with them. Yes, they ran the ball all over Baltimore. I am not going to sit here and deny that Baltimore had success running the ball against Buffalo. They did, but they didn't win the game. That didn't lead to points. They got a freaking field goal, and that's it. Buffalo needs to do the same thing. Buffalo tried to make Baltimore beat them by running, and once on every drive, you saw, okay, we can run. Oh, shit, we're getting close to red zone. We can't run anymore. Buffalo's stopping us to run. We got to pass, and we can't do that. So they need to do that same thing to KC to have them win.
So I think that they can do all these things. I really like Buffalo this week, but I'm going to go a little devil's advocate on you and talk about why I think Kansas City can win this game. Kansas City has to run the football. And I know this seems cliche, like we always talk about, well, if a team's going to be successful, they have to establish a run. Well, Kansas City actually has to really run the football this time. They have a history of giving up on the run so quickly that it's not even a joke. And this time they can't do that. They can't do it at all. I believe the last time they played Buffalo, they ran the ball 46 times.
Something like that, yep.
And they have to keep doing that. And it's for a couple of reasons. One, they have to keep Buffalo's defense honest. Because once again, if you become one-dimensional, then the defense has an advantage because they know all you're going to do is pass the ball, or they know or it goes the other way too. If you're running the ball, they know you're just going to run the ball. But Kansas City's offense is so dynamic. What will help them is by running the football. You get 5-6 yards on a running play, that helps you. They need to, and the other thing that it'll do is it'll protect Mahomes. Mahomes is coming in this game. He's not 100%, not only his head, but his toe injury as well. And so if he can just have a little bit of a handoff parade, that's going to help him and keep him protected for those plays where he needs to improvise, or the plays that he needs to drop back in the pocket, maybe take a couple steps and escape a little bit of pressure and find the open receiver. So that's what Kansas City has to do. They've got to run the football. The other thing is their defense, their corners. I think we talked about this offline, Kaus. Their corners are not 100%. And that's not good against a receiving core like Buffalo's, especially when you're going against not Stephon Diggs, but especially when you're going against Cole Beasley, because Cole Beasley is the one that keeps those chains moving, and Cole Beasley is the one that gets the big reception time after time. If their corners aren't able to play, that's going to be a huge deficit for Kansas City.
On top of that too, Edmonds-Helaire is also hurt, and if he can't. He's probable, but if he can't go or if he's not 100%, there's another thing that throws a wrench in your game plan.
For sure. Kansas City needs to – Josh Allen is fantastic. He's probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league at improvising. Like, you'll see him – now, I did see him in the Indianapolis game. He took a 20-yard sack in the fourth quarter, which was bloody devastating at the time. Like, I'm sitting there going, like, why are you doing that? You got to be better than that. But most of the time when he improvises, Kaus, you've watched the Bills all season. You know that when he gets outside of the pocket, most of the time good things happen. At least it's a no gain, which sometimes that's a win, right? Sometimes that's a win. They need to contain Josh Allen. They need to keep him between the tackles. If the Chiefs can keep him between the tackles, that's great news for them. That's great news for their defense. It's especially great news for their corners, because the corners don't have to cover their receivers for nearly as long. If you have to cover a receiver for 5 or 6 seconds, that's a long time. If you have to cover them for 3 or 4 seconds, that 2 seconds makes a huge difference.
Agreed.
So that's what I think Kansas City has to do. If they think they're going to win this game, they need to run the ball effectively against Buffalo, and they need to protect Mahomes, and their defense needs to contain Josh Allen. If they can do those 3 things, I think they can win the football game. The challenge is I don't think they're going to do it.
I agree. So let's just talk about something here real quick. And this kind of goes with both games. Both these two teams met the same week. Last time both these two teams played. Last time Green Bay played Tampa and Buffalo played KC was October 18th and 19th. Okay?
That's right.
And that, if you remember, that was the week where KC and Buffalo played at like 2:00 in the afternoon on Monday or something like that. Because of COVID. And the week before was the COVID game with Tennessee. So Buffalo's 2 losses were because of weird schedule COVID that they played on like a Tuesday. I think they played Tennessee or something like that. And then they lost the Hail Mary. So when you're looking at this, KC already beat Buffalo once. And they did, and I'm not arguing that. But that was a long time ago. That was before Buffalo's rolling. And now KC, yes, they lost week 17 because they sat everybody. But when you look at the rest of the weeks after their bye with Patrick Mahomes, their biggest win was by 6 points, I think I said. 6 points. They've won all those games, the 6 games. They won by a total of 25 points. And you're telling me after last week, the Browns held them to 22 points and almost won that game, had a chance to win the game. Yes, Mahomes went out, but that was in the last 2 drives. Cleveland almost beat them. For those of you that don't think Buffalo can win this, you really think Cleveland is that much better than Buffalo? Or you think they're the same? There's no way. Buffalo is way better team than them. They're blowing teams out. They're doing what they're doing. They're winning games by 15, 20 points, and that's what they need to do. Something else that happened. Every 27 years, the Chiefs play the Bills in the conference championship. I don't know what's happening there. Every year. And last time it happened, Buffalo won. They went to the Super Bowl. That was the 4th time they went to the Super Bowl. So but when you look at this right here and you look at, okay, yeah, well, they ran all over Buffalo last time. Buffalo was a different team. Last time they played, and it was a COVID game and everything else. Like, that was a different time, and they only won 26-17. Now, once again, that 10-point difference we're talking about, I think it might even be closer than that, but I still think Buffalo wins. But these two teams are almost the same team. Almost the same exact team playing each other. Okay.
I agree with that.
But Kansas City, 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 games. 1-8 against the spread. Now, they are 8-1 overall, straight up, but 1-8 against the spread. I think this is one of the smallest spreads they've had all year with them. And when you're saying you're 1-8 against the spread and you only have a 3-point spread, that's not a lot of give there. In their home games, they're 0-5 in their last 5 home games against the spread, and their only 2 losses this year were in home games. And granted, I get it. Week 17, nobody was playing, but that's what it is. So that's why I'm taking Buffalo all in on this on the money line. I still think Kelsey has a touchdown because I don't think they're not going to shut him out. Okay, Kansas City's going to score, but when you got a broken quarterback, it's not going to be good. So, and I think Diggs scores again. So that's why I have that prop bet there. Buffalo +9. I threw them in my teaser, and I threw them in that teaser to make it worth more money because I think they're going to win. And then my last one is Singletary's going to have a touchdown. The Buffalo wins, and Buffalo's going to have more than 2.5 touchdowns. Even, I hate to even say this, but even if Buffalo loses, they're going to score some points. I think you saw the evolution of, they scored a lot of points, but Indian almost lost. They didn't score a lot of points against Baltimore, but they still won, and that was their defense. Game 3 is going to be Josh Allen. He's going to take control. He's going to live this up. So Buffalo is going to score more than 2.5 touchdowns. And then I think they do one of it with Singletary because Kansas City's just not going to see that in the red zone. Josh Allen is just too damn good in the red zone, and they're going to key everything on Josh Allen, and I think they're going to run it right behind him.
I completely agree with pretty much everything that you said. I think that you got a Buffalo team that had some weird circumstances in the middle of the season with their scheduling. I think you have a Kansas City team that is kind of like, this seems really weird to say, but that 14-2 record doesn't really scare me if I'm Buffalo. No. I mean, they lost to the Raiders at home. 8 of their 14 wins have been by 1 possession or less, right? Like 6 points or less, 8 of their wins. And we're not talking about like great teams. Like they beat the Panthers by 2 points. Yep. They beat the Falcons by 3 points, both of those games at home. Like they're just pulling games out. Now you have a game that you're like the Bills. I think it's very safe to say are a few steps above the Panthers and the Falcons.
Well, in those games you're talking about, KC had a big lead in those games. And all those games, it was like 17-0 or 21-0 or something. The other teams came back and KC just held on. Look, Buffalo knows how to come back. They were down against Baltimore last week and they came back and won the game. Like Indy 2 weeks ago. Baltimore, they weren't. Indy 2 weeks ago, they were down and they came back and won. Like Buffalo knows how to come back and win games. They've been playing teams like the Cleveland Browns. We said it last week. If Cleveland gets behind, they're not going to come back and win that game. And they got behind and they didn't come back and win that game. KC has a tendency to get up and stay up because they're playing teams that can't play from behind. Buffalo can play from behind and beat it, and I think that's their biggest asset. Now, like you said, I don't think they're good as their record shows, but I don't think they're as bad as the Pittsburgh 11-0 was. I don't think they're that bad.
I completely agree. I think they're way better than Pittsburgh. I think they're more dimensional. I think their quarterback is better. I think their defense is better. It's just as a guy who watches the Raiders pretty much every week, it is really, really interesting to see how the Raiders game plan the Chiefs, and were pretty successful. I mean, they put 71 points up in 2 games against the Chiefs. And we're talking about a team that went 8-8, but their game plan in their game against Kansas City, I mean, they went tit for tat with Kansas City. In fact, they went tit for tat with them both times.
I agree.
And so if the Raiders had a little bit better defense, they would have won both of those games. I think Buffalo's defense is way better. I think Buffalo has the ability to run the football and sustain their running attack. I think Buffalo has the defense that can stay with the Chiefs. Other side, I think Buffalo also is one of the few teams that has the offense that can stay with the Chiefs. And so I don't see either team getting too far ahead in this game. I think that maybe you see the biggest lead in this game being 10 points by either side. And if Buffalo falls behind by 10, I don't see them getting really concerned about it. So I think we're in for a great nightcap. I'm with you, Cows. I took the Buffalo. I'm taking Buffalo on the money line. I'm selling out on Buffalo. I think I've been wrong twice already. I'm done being wrong with them. I think this is their time.
Well, and something else that we talked about before the show, and you did end up doing it. You started your betting before we were talking. When we were pre-gaming for the show. You were talking about taking Buffalo in the over, and I talked you into taking Buffalo in the under.
You did.
And here's why I'm taking Buffalo in the under. That 60 points is a lot of points. Look at Kansas City. They are not scoring a lot of points. And especially when you have a broken Mahomes and you have Andy Reid. Now, I understand it's hard to bet against Andy Reid. I get it. It is really hard to bet against Andy Reid. 3 times hosting the conference championship. Who's the only other coach to do it? Andy Reid. Like it's hard. It's hard to bet against the man. But he wins game by being a game manager and knowing what it takes to win. And if he has his way, he's going to keep that low scoring, especially with a broken Mahomes. Okay, he might still think he's Batman, even though they cleared him through concussion protocol. I don't know, but I think, like you said, they just hand it off and they run it, and that keeps it under.
Hey, if you look, they played home games last year against the Titans and the Texans. Do you think the Bills are better than the Titans and the Texans were last year?
Absolutely.
If you do, then you bet the under. Yeah, I think the Bills are in a great spot this year. I really do. I think that I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid, man. I think they're Super Bowl bound. I really do. I think they're gonna go. I think they're gonna play Tom Brady. I think they are.
Yeah, I hope you're right on that. And it's a lot of betting is the feel. And I've watched Buffalo, and I've intentionally watched a lot of KC games because I just had a feeling at the end of the year Buffalo had to get through KC. No matter how it happened, Buffalo was going to have to get through KC. So I've been watching them. And when I look at the eye test, and yes, okay, I will give you the fact that I am a Bills fan, so I might have a little rose-colored glasses when I'm watching that game. I'm not going to argue that. But when I watch a KC game, there's nothing that scares me. When I watch a Green Bay game, there's a couple of games I watch of Green Bay where I'm like, oh, okay, that's going to be tough to beat. And even Tampa, as much as I hate to admit it, there's been a couple of games that I've watched of them going, man, that's going to be tough to beat. But there has not been a game that KC has played this year where I go, man, every game I'm like, Buffalo can beat them. Buffalo can beat them. And you can say, well, Buffalo didn't beat them when they had the chance. Agreed. I'm not arguing that, but Buffalo was a different team then. It was the COVID game. And you can say, well, it was COVID for KC too, but they didn't have 2 weeks in a row where their games got missed, rescheduled because of COVID. And KC was still riding high on winning it, where Buffalo is still trying to find their identity.
Yeah,
okay?
But, Kansas City had 2 blowouts this year at the Broncos and versus the Jets, and both those teams were crap.
Correct.
I mean,
We're terrible. So there's nothing that scares me about KC at all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think this is the Bills' time to shine for sure.
I agree. And for those of you wondering, I don't wear this game day. I wear my Andre Reed jersey game day. This, for bonus points, if you guys recognize who this was, this is Kyle Williams, the longest tenured Bills of all time. So I'm representing him, my man. So anything else you got for this week there, Tony?
Well, I just wanted to talk really quick about the strategies that we're having for the betting, because we talked about that. I talked about how I really like Tampa Bay this week, and I really like Buffalo, but we did on our teasers take I took Tampa Bay on my teaser, you took Tampa Bay on yours, I took Buffalo on my teaser as well. Just because these games, as they get into the deeper rounds of the playoffs, they seem to get closer. I mean, we got Buffalo and Kansas City. They're two teams that are just nearly identical. Their records differ by 1 win. And we're looking at it in like 9 points on the road at Kansas City on a team that you like look in the mirror and it's like that Spider-Man meme. It's like, like, hey, I'm going against myself here. I just think that 9 points in both of these games is way, way too many. Does that mean, like, when it gets down to it, would I be surprised if Kansas City wins? No. Would I be surprised if Green Bay wins? No. Would I be surprised if it's a blowout? Yes, I totally would. And that's why I took both the dogs on the teaser, because I think 9 points with the quarterbacks and the defenses that we have in these games, I think that's way too much.
I agree 100%. 100%. And that's why I also think your prop bet of Tampa Bay winning by 1-13, okay, they may lose, and then you lose that bet. But if they win, it's going to be within 10. So that's a great bet right there. That's why I like it.
For sure.
And even if you would have told me, hey, Green Bay wins by 1-13, I would say the same thing. Even if they lose, you lose no matter what. But if they win, they're going to win by less than 10. So I think that's a great bet no matter what you look on it. If you go on the big win on that where you're going more than 14, I think that's money down the crapper.
Yeah, I throw enough money down the crapper this year, but I agree with you there. I'm looking at it going, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay wins, fantastic. But if Tampa Bay pulls it off, fantastic. I don't think they're blowing anybody out for sure. All right, Cows. I mean,
right. Well, I'm out of beer, so
we got conference championship games on Sunday. For me, I'm on the West Coast. They start at 12 o'clock. I think you're in the Mountain Time Zone. They start at 1 o'clock. So you get a little bit extra, an extra hour of pregame than I do. But you know what? I'm looking forward to this Final Four, man. I think it's going to be a great setup. And I think this, I'm on the record, right? I think Tampa Bay wins the game. I think Buffalo wins the game. I think Tampa Bay plays the Super Bowl on their home field. What do you think?
Welcome to the Mafia, brother. Welcome to the Mafia. I love it. Love it. All right. Well, that concludes our conference championship edition. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you all win some money. Take Vegas for what it's worth. Remember, this is for entertainment. We are not guaranteeing anything we do. But hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Email us questions, all that stuff. We love to hear from you guys. We love that people watch us. We love looking every week and say, hey, see how many people watch. We love it. We love you guys. Sure. I love getting texts on, hey, you guys were awesome. I love it. Or, dude, you were so wrong on that. Dude, I got one of those texts like, what are you talking about? This isn't going to happen. I got a Bills text on. And I'm like, and I love talking. We argued, and we can be adults and say you're wrong and I'm wrong, but we're still friends. But I love talking that way. So please hit us up and go Bills.
All right. Go Bills, buddy. All right. Have a great week.
Love you, BS.
All right. Love you. See you later. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.